Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. New York State has announced a sweeping lawsuit against members of the Sackler family, the owner of Purdue Pharma, which makes OxyContin, the highly addictive drug at the center of the opioid epidemic. New York Attorney General Letitia James accused the Sacklers of masterminding a scheme that, quote, literally profited off of suffering and death. This is James speaking at a news conference Thursday.
And as Purdue sold more and more opioids, the Sackler family transferred more and more and more wealth to their personal accounts. And as the lawsuits have piled up against the Sackler family and Purdue for their roles in this crisis, they continue to move funds into trust and, yes, offshore accounts.
Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family are facing multiple lawsuits. A group of over 500 cities, counties, and Native American tribes filed a lawsuit against the Sacklers last week, accusing them of lying about the dangers of OxyContin and deceitful marketing of the drug. The New York suit names 5 other opioid manufacturers, including Johnson & Johnson and the Israeli company Teva. The Justice Department said Thursday special counsel Robert Mueller's full report is over 300 pages long as Democrats continue to call for its full release as well as the underlying evidence. Democrats argue Attorney General William Barr's 4-page summary released just 2 days after receiving Mueller's report cannot be trusted and question his conclusion that Trump did not obstruct justice, a charge Mueller did not reach a definitive conclusion on. Barr reportedly told House Judiciary Chair Gerald Nadler he would not commit to sharing the full report. He's currently redacting the report, which could take weeks, meaning he will likely miss Democrats' stated deadline of next Tuesday to hand it over. The Department of Housing and Urban Development suing Facebook for violating the Fair Housing Act. HUD says Facebook allows companies that advertise housing on social media platform to block their ads from select groups of users based on factors such as race, religion, gender, and disability. Some of the categories available to advertisers include foreigners or people selected Hispanic culture or hijab fashion as an interest. Facebook says it's working on the issue. Last week, the company reached a settlement with civil rights groups agreeing to overhaul its micro-targeting system to curb discriminatory advertising. HUD is reportedly also reviewing Twitter and Google's targeted advertising practices. The war of words between President Trump and Puerto Rican Governor Ricardo Rosselló heated up Thursday, 2 days after Trump told Republican lawmakers Puerto Rico has received too much aid since 2017's devastating Hurricane Maria. This is Governor Rosselló speaking to CNN's Jim Acosta.
Does it feel that way sometimes? That you're dealing with a bully?
If the bully gets close, I'll punch the bully in the mouth.
In response, Trump told reporters, "I've taken better care of Puerto Rico than anyone ever." President Trump has still not acknowledged more than 3,000 people died in Puerto Rico after the hurricane. In the Philippines, award-winning journalist Maria Ressa has been freed on bail after authorities arrested her Friday for the second time in 2 months. The arrest stems from charges barring foreign ownership of press, an accusation Ressa denies. Ressa is the founder of the independent news site Rappler and a vocal critic of the Philippines' authoritarian President Rodrigo Duterte and his war on drugs, which has killed thousands of people. Ressa spoke to reporters after her release.
You cannot harass and intimidate journalists to silence. We'll stand up and fight against it. And as long as we are a democracy under a constitution which has a Bill of Rights, we will demand our rights be respected.
And then tell me. In Venezuela, the government of President Nicolas Maduro has banned opposition leader and self-proclaimed interim President Juan Guaido from running for public office for 15 years. Venezuelan government officials cited irregularities in Guaido's financial disclosures. The opposition leader dismissed the charge and called on his supporters to keep taking to the streets. In Saudi Arabia, authorities temporarily freed 3 of the 11 women activists who were imprisoned on what human rights groups say are trumped-up charges. Among other issues, they were protesting Saudi Arabia's ban on women drivers. Their arrest 10 months ago came just weeks before the kingdom lifted the ban. Some of the women have reported physical and sexual abuse while imprisoned. In Somalia, a car bomb detonated on a busy road by a hotel and restaurants in the capital Mogadishu Thursday, killing at least 15 people and wounding 17 others, according to local reports. Al-Shabaab militants claim responsibility for the attack. This is a witness and Mogadishu residents speaking after the deadly attack.
As a mother, it is shocking for me, and I request those behind the explosions to stop. We are crying every day over dead bodies, and it is very hard for us to talk about.
The attack comes just days after a car bomb and a gun battle between security forces and al-Shabaab militants killed at least 15 people at a government building in Mogadishu. In news from Egypt, pro-democracy activist and blogger Alaa Abdel Fattah was freed from prison after 5 years. He was convicted of inciting a 2013 protest that broke a law barring public gatherings without government approval. He still faces 5 years probation, which means he will have to spend 12 hours in a police station every night. Just 2 weeks away from the new Brexit deadline, British lawmakers will vote on a framework for Britain's relationship with the European Union through the end of 2020. Earlier this week, Prime Minister Theresa May said she would step down if her deal, which was already rejected twice by lawmakers, passed in Parliament. Lawmakers on both sides fear the failure of today's vote could result in a dreaded no-deal Brexit. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres warned leaders to come to an upcoming climate summit with concrete plans to stem climate change as the UN presented a new report by the World Meteorological Organization Thursday.
Every week brings a new example of climate-related devastation. No country or community is immune. And, as is always the case, the poor and vulnerable are the first to suffer and the worst hit. Global climate marches are sending a clear message. Young people are demanding that today's leaders act on behalf of future generations. I echo that demand.
President Trump told reporters Thursday he's reversing a proposed budget cut to the Special Olympics after Education Secretary Betsy DeVos came under fire for requesting government zero out its funding for the third straight year. I've overridden my people, Trump told reporters. In healthcare news, a federal judge in Washington, D.C. struck down a Trump administration rule enabling so-called association health plans, which allows small businesses to jointly offer less expensive and more restrictive health plans outside the Affordable Care Act. Trump promoted the rule to business owners as a way to circumvent the ACA and save money. The ruling comes just days after the Justice Department argued the ACA should be fully overturned, siding with a Texas judge who declared President Barack Obama's signature health law unconstitutional last December. Wells Fargo CEO Tim Sloan stepping down as the banking giant faces multiple scandals related to its predatory lending practices and misleading and defrauding customers. Senator Elizabeth Warren tweeted in response to the news, quote, "About damn time. Tim Sloan should have been fired a long time ago. He enabled Wells Fargo's massive fake account scam, got rich off it, and then helped cover it up. Now let's make sure all the people hurt by Wells Fargo's scams get the relief they're owed," unquote. Earlier this month, Democratic lawmakers grilled Sloan on consumer fraud as well as Wells Fargo's relationship to the NRA, private prisons, and the fossil fuel industry. The following day, Wells Fargo increased his salary to $18.4 million, including a $2 million bonus. Maryland has become the latest state to adopt the $15 minimum wage after the legislature overrode Governor Larry Hogan's veto of the bill. Companies must adopt the law by 2025 or 2026 if they have fewer than 15 employees. Maryland's now the sixth state to sign a $15 an hour minimum wage into law. And organizers in Gaza have called for a million-strong demonstration Saturday on the one-year anniversary of the start of the Great March of Return protests at the occupied enclave's separation barrier with Israel. A recent UN report found that 189 Palestinians were killed between March 30th and December 31st last year. Local reports put the total number of deaths at over 200, with thousands of others wounded. Israel has ramped up its military presence in preparation for the demonstration. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.